My question was, your implicit bias against men clouds your judgment of all conversations centering gender. Are you open to the possibility that your bias is evidence of the disconnect between the left writ large and young men?
I mean, I would
But
say
and you
no.
said no immediately,
Well,
which is absurd.
Wouldn't it be more absurd for me to think I have a bias against something? Why would I think if I had thought I had a bias against it in a negative way? I feel like I would try to correct the bias. No.
No, I think you could be open to the possibility that you're blind to the bias.
Well, I have to be open to the possibility that I'm blind to any bias. I guess it would be up to you to convince me then that I have the bias.
Okay, I think I could convince you that you have the bias.
Okay, well then convince me that I have the bias.
Okay, I think one example, I guess I'll use one example kind of based on an amalgamation of positions that you posited over the years. I think one thing, it's not necessarily your position, but your position, the left's position on things like emotional intelligence, like among men versus women, and like social competence, like generally speaking, I feel like people agree that women have more of those things. And you're one of those people. Would you agree or disagree?
That women are generally more like
socially and emotionally competent.
Yeah?
Yeah, and I think I could probably agree with that in most cases, but I also think that acknowledgement only exists in a vacuum. And then when it comes to things like maybe like a dating conversation and people talk about kind of like interpersonal or kind of like gender dynamics, men become far more capable of like severe emotional manipulation, deception, and ways to kind of like guide women around left and right. And like women are kind of viewed as hopeless in these sort of dynamics. And it's like, if it is the case that men are much less socially competent and emotionally competent, how is it possible that like this can kind of play out in a way that there's like tropes about men doing these sorts of things? And it kind of like, to steal from Hutch, like it kind of seemed like a Green Lantern theory of like gender dynamics where like men kind of just always occupy like whatever like the bad thing is in these sorts of conversations. And I think you exhibit sort of like this sort of thing.
I mean, I don't think I exhibit that sort of thing at all. I mean, I would agree with your statement 1,000,000,000% that, I mean, the reason why is because women are treated like children always. Like my personal position is I don't even think like, what? Never mind, that's too extreme. Like women are treated like children. I don't know what else you want me to say. On the left, that's how it works. I don't think it's good. I think it's weird.
Oh, okay. I think that you do the same thing though. I like you're saying this now, and I'm glad you're agreeing with me.
I feel like I say this literally all the fucking time. I think I've literally had this position constantly.
No,
but okay.
You don't.
In what circumstance?
What do you mean?
I think that women get away. I feel like I've complained so much that women get a free pass on. My complaint has always been that like on the right you can women and get away with it, and then on the left women can literally say whatever the fuck they want and they can get away with it. Like I feel like the gender dynamic is really extreme on the political left and right. Why can you hold on? Just a quick question, buddy. Have you ever driven Uber before?
Driven Uber, no.
Why do some people just accept a thing and then they just sit in some place and they don't fucking move ever? Is it a troll?
It's because they want you to cancel it, man.
Well, but Uber even lets you cancel these and they don't get mad at you. They say it's not even like a penalty. Fuck this guy.
Yeah, I don't know.
Okay. Sorry. Keep going. Yeah. I'm sorry. Hold on. Wait. What do you feel like I've ever exhibited this, like the opposite take than what I'm giving you right now?
Well, we've argued a few times over things of this nature. I'm trying to recall. One topic was around kind of like body shaming and like how body shaming manifests in men versus women, you believing that it's more deleterious for women in society, me thinking that that's absurd. And I think that that's because you're kind of blinded by, I mean, I don't even know necessarily like why you think that, to be honest, but I think you're wrong. And then the other thing was, I think at one point we talked about media, and I said that I don't think that there's necessarily a gendered bias in media, but if there were one, it would be kind of like female leaning or like woman leaning, and you, I believe, disagreed with that as well.
Sure. I understand. I know we've had, but I'm saying like with regards to me thinking that, like I feel like I've always said that women are kind of like treated like children too much on the left.
Yeah, I'm saying, I think there's like a particular kind of like set of circumstances where, I mean, you do say these things, I agree completely. I just think that like those sorts of opinions like usually come about, I don't want to say, I mean, in sexual misconduct reviews, stuff like involving like creators and stuff. I don't know. I think that those opinions, like I agree that you've held them consistently, but I just feel like they kind of really only come about in like very particular circumstances, but kind of generally you don't usually say things like that. I think generally your opinion is like very like bog standard, like kind of like left coded, but then I think there are certain situations where like it becomes a lot less kind of like binary for you. Not that you're like inconsistent, just kind of like.
Sure. I mean, like I am like I would probably identify as like a feminist. I'm gonna have like broadly speaking like center left to however left social views relating to like women and men dynamics and everything. Probably, yeah.
Yeah. So if I were to, okay, so. Sorry, my phone fell. Like, I guess I'd say something like, in this sort of climate, like people talk about like young men's whatever. It's like we acknowledge like, okay, young men are, like boys and men, like graduating, like dropping out of high school more, graduating high school less, going to college less, graduating college less, like going to law school less, going to medical school less, all these sorts of things. And it's kind of like those sorts of issues, I feel like don't really come to the forefront of like anything. But kind of like the negative ramifications of those issues, I feel like are kind of things that like we all fixate on, like yourself included, like and not really the other side quite as much.
Sure. Yeah, they probably get
like the red pill shit, like kind of like all the like incel, like retard, obviously like horrible people, awful people, dumb people, or just very like misled, young, stupid people. In a lot of instances, like malicious actors, I agree, but I think that I think you could do a bigger part to kind of like combat these sorts of things, but My personal opinion.
Sure. I mean, like, we probably don't talk about those issues as much. I mean, they have come up sometimes. Like, I'll bring up, like, during COVID and everything, when people were expected to stay home and work for their families, it was only men that were doing that. Women didn't have to drop as much of their life to do. I've talked about these things sometimes. They don't really come up as issues as much, I guess, because I'm just not, I don't know.
But you also say things like, oh, like everything that's like considered masculine, like traditionally, like that's all just like cool stuff, and everything that's considered feminine is like non-cool stuff. I feel like I don't really agree with like something like that, because I don't know. I think like things like rage and like blind rage and like danger, like imminent danger to like others, and like antisocial personality and stuff like that stuff that I feel like is very commonly associated with masculinity. Would you disagree?
Sure, but also, I mean, like, there are upsides to that as well. I mean, there might be like negative things related to like men being angry, but there's like positive things associated with like righteous anger and the strength to carry out your anger against other people. But I mean, yeah, I wouldn't say that like masculine traits are like universally good. Every single one is good, and every single feminine trait is bad and horrible. I mean, I just think broadly speaking, it's just kind of how it's viewed. I think.
Oh. Well,
I also don't know when we talk about like masculine or feminine traits. I don't really think anybody. I think just like common parlance wise, I don't know why, but it feels like those are almost always like positives. Like, give me some traits of like this person, or not a person, I guess. When you say like, oh, like what do you think are some masculine traits? I feel like people are generally thinking of positive things. Or when you think of like feminine traits, what are like some positive things? I feel like we generally speak of these on the positive. I guess you could think of like negative feminine or negative masculine traits, but that doesn't seem to be what that language lends itself to.
But wouldn't you say that those feminine traits are like undesirable or like kind of like net zero traits? I thought that was your position.
My position is that, broadly speaking, I think the traits historically that are labeled as like masculine traits are usually things that basically everybody would want, and that the feminine traits that are labeled historically are usually giant cope things that suck shit, but like women just kind of have to like deal with it because they happen to be the ones that give birth to children.
Okay. Sorry, I just remembered an opinion. I mean, like I said, I feel like you're much more measured than you are in instances where I've expressed like vehement disagreement with you. So I'm kind of like fishing at this point. So I'm happy to let somebody else come in. The only other thing is, you mentioned that if you think like if men gave birth, like abortion. Wait, what did you say? Abortion would be
legal.
Like, it wouldn't be.
Oh yeah, 120%. Yeah.
Like what? See, that's what I mean. Like, that's kind of an example of, like, what I'm talking about. Do you not understand? Like, I feel like that kind of speaks to sort of, like, a more meta, like, acceptance. And I guarantee you, like, chat is, like, calling me saying this, but I like, this speaks to what I mean, like, kind of, like, a meta understanding of, like, compassion and, like, differences in, like, the way, sort of, like, the standard man versus woman operates, or, like, men or women are perceived. And I think, like, this bias, like, is rooted in historical fact. Like, it's not questioned, but I just feel like having that sentiment today, like, where kind of, like, the discrepancies I outlined previously, not going to go back through them, because apparently you're an incel if you bring that type of shit up. I feel like with those realities being what exists in the modern day, like saying things like that is just indicative of a larger problem. Not that one statement in a vacuum is necessarily like that horrible, but
okay, wait, state that issue again.
Saying things like, oh, obviously, like if men were the ones who gave.
Oh yeah.
Birth,
I mean, I guess I feel
like those sorts of
Yeah, I guess. I mean, I guess I feel like that's true, but I guess I just don't see in society how like a male bodily. Well, I don't know. It's hard to think of an equivalent thing, I guess. But I don't see any place where like male bodily autonomy is ever like threatened to that degree. That just seems kind of crazy to me. I'm curious. I guess here this would be like the closest example I can think of. Are there ever stories if you go to a hospital and you ask them to do what's the snip surgery called or whatever?
Vasectomy.
Yeah, to get a vasectomy. Do doctors ever ask you to like check, like, do they make you bring your wife in or check with your wife first before you get that procedure done?
I think doctors sometimes might question you, but I don't believe I've ever heard anything like that. No.
Gotcha. But it's like super common that women can't have like similar types of surgeries without their husband signing off on it, or like sometimes doctors will just refuse because they think they're too young. That's kind of weird.
Yeah, that is weird. So what do you think that speaks to? Like, what do you think that is outlining? Like, I understand what you're getting at, but I guess I would specifically like you to kind of like.
Yeah, that like male bodily autonomy is a little bit more. I guess like we still kind of live in a society that's a little bit more centered on the respect of male bodily autonomy that way.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a fairly good example. I can't think of anything that I would. I mean, yeah, I have no objection with that. So I guess yeah. So me using that example as kind of representative of the general sentiment that I was expressing disagreement with wasn't good.
Well,
yeah, that was the best one I could think of. Given the circumstances. So when I have a more vehement disagreement, because currently I've just kind of been on your side with like the Pisco lefty bullshit. Sorry, not Pisco. He's liberal. With the Kyle, kind of all that shit. I've just been kind of, these frontline soldiers, bro. We gotta clear your name up, bro. I had a conversation with somebody close to me, and he had watched the Professor Dave video on you, and he had he's such a smart guy, but he had all the talking points about you, and I had to kind of I had to slow down and just like educate him on like the whole lore. And at the end of it, he was like, I mean, I still disagree with them in Israel Palestine, but you realize you're not like, you know, an insane like genocide loving rapist.
Yeah, thanks. You know, I try not to be.
Yeah, bro, we're working out here, so you know, keep up the good shit. Appreciate it.
Yeah. All right. I'll be careful.
Yep.
Really.